Welcome back to week 3 of Jackie Quinn. This is her third and final episode, so expect big things. Now, in case you haven't seen the last 2 episodes, firstly, I'm very disappointed in you. But secondly, we'll have Jackie introduce herself just in case. Jackie, welcome back.
Hello, Ben.
Hello. Please just briefly introduce yourself to the viewers and the audience.
So I'm Jackie Quinn and I have an estate agency in Surrey with 3 branches, sales and lettings, and I'm the regional executive for Propertymark, South East of England.
So, highly experienced, high quality, as I said last week. On No More Waffle, it's not about waffle, it's about quality, and that's exactly what Jackie's going to bring. So, let's get straight into the big, juicy, chunky question that if you watched last week, you'll realise I asked a question, we spent 5 minutes answering that and 25 minutes talking about everything else. Let's see how we do this week. So if you could change one thing tomorrow about how a estate agency operates, not for agents, for buyers, sellers, renters and anyone letting, what would it be and why?
I think the best thing would be if everything was much more transparent to everybody. The industry is very cloak and dagger still. And people don't understand what we do.
Okay, and that is why this podcast exists. There you go. That's the end of the episode, guys. Thanks for tuning in. So go on, Jackie, perfect answer. So tell us, elaborate a bit. So that's what you would change. Why is it important that we change that?
I think it's important to change it because we do have this bad reputation, which we shouldn't have. We're all good people at heart. And I think the public just deserve to know what's going on and why it's taking so long and what they can do to change it and not just blame us for situations that they don't really understand.
Okay, so it's an education thing.
I think it's an education thing.
And so how do we go about educating the consumer? Other than brilliant podcasts like this, which talk in detail about the industry, how do us as people who work in the industry go about educating the consumer so they don't all think we're just, we're all the same, we're just a commodity business? How do we explain everything so they have an appreciation for what's involved?
I think much more needs to be done face to face and in person and on the phone rather than in email and on text messages. I think we need to explain the process to everyone very clearly from day one and keep really open channels with them throughout the transaction when you're working with someone, to just be talking to them pretty much constantly and explaining what's happening and why it's happening.
Okay. I mean, I'm in agreement, but are we at risk of trying to communicate in a way that we like, you and I, face to face over the phone? I think that's the best way to do business. Talk to people, look them in the eye if you can. But there's a new cohort coming in that prefer to do this. Maybe some of them still like to email. Sorry, if you're listening, this was using a phone. For texting, sorry, blimey, got to explain in more detail. The younger people like to send texts and WhatsApps.
Yeah. Well, I think you've got to be flexible and you go with whatever works for that person. You learn very quickly how their preferred method of contact is. It's just communicating what's happening and why it's happening. Okay. I think there's too much things happen particularly in chains of sales when they're going through, that don't get communicated back to the client. And it's only 3 weeks down the line they realise that the chain has changed further down and there might be a different buyer involved and it's going to take longer. I mean, all they're interested in is when they're going to move.
Yeah.
And I think anything that affects that outcome needs to be passed on to them.
And in your business, as someone with a lot of high quality experience, how do you manage that? Do you have a sales progression in the business? Or who progresses the sales?
In our business, whoever's handling the property actually follows the transaction through from start to finish. Okay. There might be somebody else in the office who backs up when they're busy on appointments. So somebody will be in charge of actually communicating with the client fully from start when it comes on the market to the day they complete. It will be. So,
for instance, that might be you. Or would
I
that
tend
be,
not to get involved in that on a day-to-day basis now, but my team are really experienced all. And so
an interesting conversation is the makeup of your team, because firstly, agents or people that work in the property sector, we're all nosy. We like to hear how other people run their business. But for the consumer, and actually talking to exactly the subject matter we're discussing today, is an appreciation for, oh, I didn't know you did it like that, or I didn't know that's how it worked. Just talk us through how you've set up your team that you think works best and gets the best service to the consumer.
So, so when a property comes on the market, I might go and value it, or one of my team members goes to value it. When it comes on the market, it goes to the admin team, who probably will be AI one day.
Okay, yeah.
Or the admin team will be using AI to make their job easier. And then when the property goes live, they could be contacted by any member of the team, but they'll always be contacted at least twice a week by their key member of staff.
Okay.
We always set up we have an email, obviously, communication and phone communication. We also set up a business WhatsApp chat with them, which I'm on personally. So I get to oversee, because I'm a bit of a control freak, so I see what's going on generally.
Hard to believe, a business owner, estate agent,
exactly.
Control freak.
But basically the WhatsApp group chats, which I mean, surprising how few agents use them nowadays. It's absolutely unbelievable. I assume that everybody does WhatsApps, but they don't.
No.
And it's far easier for the client to actually, because if you've got more than one client, particularly if they're difficult situation, maybe divorcing or executors where there are, some of them living abroad, and everybody gets communicated to at the same time. It's so much easier to actually do that.
Do you ever put your buyers and sellers in the same WhatsApp group?
No.
We've started doing that.
Have you?
I say started, so we've been doing it for probably getting on for 2 years now. And the reason we do that is for this transparency piece. So, not for everyone, by the way. If we've got a particularly spiky character on one side, that doesn't go down very well. But if people are reasonable, then we have a WhatsApp group with, so we have a sales progressor in our business. Alice has been with us for 13 years. The managing director will probably be in the group, and maybe the salesperson that was involved in putting the sale together. And then we'll have the buyers and the sellers. And so there'll be constant updates on what's going on. But also, if there's a log, there's a jam and we need something to move forward, if you put it into that group, whoever's holding things up, the accountability sort of escalates because other people can see that I'm not doing my stuff. And so that's worked really, really well for us.
Good.
Initially, we thought this is very high risk. This is going to cause a lot of issues for us, but actually it's worked really well. So,
well, that's worth it.
yeah, worth having a look at, thinking
definitely.
about.
Definitely.
Okay, so your methodology is you've got different people that handle different areas of the business, but there's always a lead point of contact for your clients.
And bottom line, I'm always around in the background. As I say, with 3 offices, you can't do everything, but I'm always really clear to my clients that I'm here in the background, and I do make it clear I won't be dealing with you on a day-to-day basis, but if you've got any issues, you can contact me anytime. And they're really respectful. They never do. I mean, some people, I do find with some agents, they're like, oh, I'm not, you know, getting involved in WhatsApp with people. As long as you're respectful, as long as you're clear with people as to what the expectations are. And I always say to them, look, you know, I might answer you at 8 o'clock at night. If you message me, I might not, but I'll certainly come back to you between 9 and 5.
I guess also the major point is that if you as an agent or as a team of agents are doing a good job, there's less risk around you getting naff messages at difficult times to deal with, because your team are just doing what they're meant to do when they're meant to do it.
And I think there really needs to be some sort of standardisation on how, as agents, we collect the data of further down the chain. Because a lot of time, it's not correct. What you start off with changes, and it changes very quickly.
So before you explain that, let me just, if you don't work in agency, when you buy and sell a property, let's say you're a first-time buyer, you're buying a property. The people selling that are likely moving up the chain and buying a property. That's called a chain. And so there might be, I think the biggest chain we've ever been involved in has had 6 properties in it. We've never had a chain bigger than that in ours. Have you? Yeah.
11.
Whoa. So horrible stat, but roughly somewhere between 1 in 3 and 1 in 4 sales that are agreed fall through. They're bought. Someone changes their mind, something happens, circumstances change. So what that means is if you're in a chain with 3 to 4 properties in it, there's a large chance that chain is going to fall apart at some point, which is awful. And so managing that process is really, really difficult, as Jackie, I'm sure, will confirm, because you don't always get the truth. Or sometimes things change, actually, is the point you were making. In my experience, sometimes we don't get the truth from people up and down the chain.
No, we don't. And then that becomes an issue for your client, because your client isn't they're not able to move in their deadline.
Yeah.
And then it makes you look bad because you've collected the wrong information. So I think there needs to be, and I don't know what that looks like, to be honest with you. I don't actually know what it looks like. I think sharing information, there needs to be some, we don't need yet more software. We've got too many software things going on. Honestly, I mean, there's everything as a software for this, software for
Do you
that.
use any software for sales progression, anything like that?
No, we just use our in-house CRM that we use on a daily basis. We use that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the same as us. We said it in the previous episode, or maybe it was the first episode, John, that the business is a people business. And so actually, you're right, we don't need more software. We need people that are good at dealing with people. That's the key. I mentioned Alice a moment ago, who handles our sales progression. She's exceptional. If I put anyone else in the team on her job, they'd be useless. Actually, that's unfair. Maybe Daniel would be pretty good. But the rest of them, the salespeople,
they don't want to do it.
They don't want to do it. They don't enjoy it.
No.
They don't have the skill set.
It's not their skill set, no.
And so getting the right people in the right role makes a massive, massive difference. But this is really interesting because I've never had a conversation about some sort of prescribed format for chain checking or qualification. We've got our own in-house format. You'll have your own in-house.
Absolutely.
But the chink in the armour is that you don't know what's the truth and what's not.
You don't know what's the truth and what's not. And nobody will share information because of GDPR rules. So they're all very cagey about it. But it would be really helpful. I mean, I know one of my friends, her son recently bought a house. He's a first-time buyer. He was buying a house, really excited about it. He was buying a house where the owners there were buying a brand new house. And it was all due to go through in like 6 to 8 weeks. And it took nearly a year because something cropped up with the new house. There were badgers in the garden. But it was known that there were badgers in the garden before the house went on the market, and somebody hadn't voiced it, hadn't disclosed it. And of course, when it cropped up, it then made the planning permission null and void, and it had a knock-on effect. And the poor chap didn't move for nearly a year. And what he missed from that, he missed the change in stamp duty, so he ended up paying £5,000 more, and it left him with a really bad taste in his mouth about estate agents. And he's young, it's first time.
But now he'll have that opinion.
He'll have that opinion.
Until he comes across or stumbles across or happens to use someone who's good at their job.
Yeah.
And so, as you mentioned earlier, people move on average every 7 years. So he might not move for 7 years. So for the next 7 years, he's going to talk about how bad his estate agency experience was.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in 7 years, he might stumble across an agent who's not great again. And then you've got 14 years of it. So this is actually, unfortunately, it's common place that you'll find something not disclosed appropriately. Sometimes it's a mistake. Yeah, it's an error.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not.
Sometimes they don't want to divulge it because that person then might withdraw from the purchase and then they're back to square one. I mean, also you've got the responsibility there of the conveyancers who should be. Conveyancers are they only deal with their bit of the link.
Yep.
So when you have got linked chains, which 9 times out of 10 you've got a linked chain, the conveyancers will only do with their bit. So we have no choice as agents but to try and make sense of the whole thing.
Yeah.
But because we're all working from different hymn sheets, all the agents are working differently, there's no way of knowing if it changes unless you're ringing them twice a week asking, has anything changed? You don't know.
Yeah, and that's
Which is frustrating.
Hugely frustrating, and not just for the agent, but for everyone involved in the chain. And you could have 11 properties in the chain, and it just takes one to forget something, omit a piece of information,
Absolutely.
hide something intentionally for the entire chain to collapse. And unless you've been through this, you can't appreciate how horrible it is, actually. We deal with it on a daily basis, managing the emotions of a move and a chain collapsing.
And that's it. We deal with it every day, and what we forget is it's people's lives. And I think we really do forget that. And I think it's only when we move personally and it gives us a kick up the backside saying, hold on, this is what these people are going through. And I think that we should all have to move. As agents, we should all have to go through a move experience.
Yeah, this is really interesting. I remember asking on a podcast years ago, when you recruit people into your team, do you think they have to have experienced the process before they're allowed to work in it? Would that make them better at their job? I think I was interviewing Christian, so he was a lettings agent. I was saying, and I can't remember what the outcome of that conversation was, But having been through it a few years ago, it's awful out there.
It's awful.
As a buyer
It's awful.
and a seller,
Yeah.
although actually from a selling perspective, we handled it ourselves. So the actual sale was okay, but either side
had to
wasn't
say
great. Yeah, I did, yeah. And yeah, so I think if you've lived the experience, you have, empathy is all well and good. But if you haven't experienced it yourself, then, it's just fugazi, it's fugazi. It's not legitimate for you. You can't have a true understanding. When you have to call a family that's due to exchange tomorrow, complete next week, they've got 3 kids and they need to be in the school.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And you can't appreciate how awful that is, how stressful that is. They're packed up, they're good to go. They've got to unpack everything and start again. And that's the housing system we have in this country. So let's go back to the prescribed thing, because this is really interesting, because I've never ever had a conversation with anyone that said we should have a prescribed format for putting a chain together. You mentioned not using technology, but blockchain sort of exists to sort of do something similar to this, not exactly this.
Yes.
But maybe there's something in that realm. I know you say you don't have the solution, but what do you think the solution could be?
Well, I think it's part of a big picture. I think the whole of the housing industry, the whole of moving house needs to be looked at as a job lot.
Okay.
And I think as part of that, if houses had some sort of MOT type, they had an online presence with a history, then it would become much simpler.
But would it? So
I think it would, because you could then link in with that the sales transaction process. So if you had a house, 53 Acacia Avenue, and it's whatever, a 3-bed semi, currently under offer to X. I mean, it would have to be a very technical setup. But if you're going to change the whole thing, you might as well do it properly.
Yeah, you're right. No,
and keep a history of the property.
Yeah, so it's the idea of the house MOT, people have been playing around with that. I think it's a good idea as well. I think the real issue you have is adoption and getting everyone, the average consumer, even myself who works in property, I'm dreading when we have to sell our home, because there's just so many bits and pieces that we've got to pull together. It's such a difficult process.
Yeah, absolutely. And it changes. It's like an ever-changing target.
Yeah, selling a home, unfortunately, is a little bit like solving a Rubik's Cube at times. There's so much that's moving and changing and evolving. And that in itself is why great agents are absolutely essential to this process.
I think if agents were... again, different topic. If they were regulated,
I wonder if you might go down this road.
Then everybody would actually have a crib sheet as to what they... If all the agents were working in the same fashion, this is where it becomes unstuck, because we're not. So we'll go through the rigorous checking out who the buyer is, who their buyer is, what's their position, have they got a mortgage. If there was something standardised that all the agents had to find out, then we'd have a much better chance of seeing the bigger picture.
So I agree and I disagree. If everyone did it exactly how you've described, Nirvana, yes, it would be wonderful.
Yep.
But right now, we've got a whole load of rules in a state agency that a big chunk of agents don't follow anyway. Yep. And so the problem, I think, is, personally, it's less about qualifications or a set standard, and it's more about policing, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm considering that as one.
Putting them together.
Pulling it all together, actually giving someone a set of guidelines as to how they work and ensuring they stick to it.
And that's me. That's where it falls down. Because how do we, at the moment, it's hard enough to get or the various bodies. So trading standards look after us in one respect. We have property ombudsman services that police in a different respect. There are others. The difficulty is policing the actions of agents and them having the infrastructure or the resource to do anything about it.
No, I'm with you, and I agree with that. And I think, again, the public aren't aware of this. They think we're a seamless... We work seamlessly with conveyancers. This is where it goes wrong. They could not be further from the truth, could they? Because, we're working with lots of conveyancers. We've got, hundreds of sales going through. Some of the conveyancers are now on online portals where every week, every day, you get a thing comes through to your email inbox, and the clients do as well, saying, the searches are back, the mortgage is received. You get all that given to you several times a week automatically. Others are just a man with a phone in an office and you can't get hold of him for 3 weeks because he's on holiday.
Yeah.
And you get no information from. So we're trying to get, and clients, again, this transparency thing, they don't understand that we're trying to get information from so many different places in different methods.
Yeah.
And we'd stand a better chance if there was a slightly more standardised way of the information being available.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about two different things here, really, but both of them you can see how useful they would be if you had a set standard and it was policed effectively and it was created by people that knew what they were doing, as opposed to, you look at housing in this country and the people that are in charge of housing, 17 people in the last 20 years, how seriously, or we don't take it seriously, except it's the one thing that people talk about other than the weather all the time. But maybe it is a piece of tech that we need to join up all the dots. At the moment, well, not at the moment, that's not quite the right term. I can think of when transactions have not proceeded and it's people that are the issue with transactions not moving forward. So maybe it's someone being dishonest and not providing all the information. And to be clear, I'm not talking about agents here.
No.
Quite often, a buyer might present themselves as one thing and 4 weeks down the line be something else.
Absolutely.
And so that happens all the time. And I remember having a conversation with someone fairly recently, and the question I said is, has the consumer ended up with the agent they deserve? And what I mean by that is, everyone's telling porcupines. Everyone's manipulating a situation to get what they want. When a buyer registers with a budget, you're very rarely given the true budget. They've always got a little bit more.
They've always got more.
When a seller tells you that they want to achieve X, and that's their absolute bottom line, there's no way they can achieve less. An offer comes in at 10% below X and they rip your arm off for it. If everyone was just more honest and open and transparent.
Transparent, I think that's,
So that's one issue, but maybe the consumer's ended up with an agent that behaves how the consumer behaves. Maybe everyone's just lying to everyone.
I think they want to keep the peace. A lot of the time agents want to keep the peace and they just say what they know is going to keep them quiet. Rather than the truth, because people don't like hearing the truth.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Yeah, the truth is often too painful for a lot to hear.
It is, and that goes from day one of coming on the market. If people come round and the house isn't very nice, you have to find a way of telling them that the house doesn't look its best without upsetting them. It's their home.
And that should be done at almost at that first meeting.
Absolutely.
You've got to dress it up appropriately.
Well, of course you have, but I'm always really clear with our clients, and we don't get any bad feedback afterwards. We get nothing but 5-star Google reviews, which is good. But we're really clear with them from day one. We will be honest with you, whether you like it or not. We will be honest with you, and if you don't like it, then maybe we're not the right agent for you. Which
is also another. It's a great line that you don't be everything to everyone.
No,
you set yourself up for failure.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So,
and you're not going to be the right agent for everyone, because, like you say, people want cheap, people want quick, people want all sorts of different things. And the art is finding out what they want and whether you can offer what they want. Because what you don't want is an unhappy client. Yeah, don't crowbar a client into your systems and operating procedure if it's not a good fit. No, exactly. Okay. Whilst we're on this subject, why is it that most agents, and it's just the truth, most agents do want to work with absolutely everyone? That I don't hear many agents say, I'm not going to work with them, or I'm not going to take that listing on. Because ultimately we're salespeople at the end of the day, and whilst we are counsellors and on every other level, we are salespeople. That's why we do this. We like selling houses, we like doing the deal, we like being successful. And so we're our own worst enemy? We're our own worst enemy. And there's nothing worse than losing a house to another agent. I've never got over that, and I never will. I hate it. And yeah, you're right, we're competitive. We're competitive. And that is exactly why the consumer wants us working for them, because we're competitive. We're going to get the job done. Absolutely. Where I thought you might go is because from a
commercial perspective, estate agency is almost under attack. Average fees are way down on where they were, say, 20 years ago. Service levels are constantly in review or constantly part of the conversation. Is that part of the problem, that we're so busy chasing volume that we're not focusing on good quality, and as such, that's impacting fees? Is that an issue locally? Do you ever see anything like that?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is. And, you know, if you halve your fees, you've got to sell twice as many houses just to keep the door open.
Yeah.
So I think it's the wrong way, but you are, as an agent, you're always up against the other agents in your town, bringing in new ideas and, like you say, cutting fees, not giving great service. The public, some of them, just see the headline, you know, 0.5% sell your house.
Yeah, and so, again, it almost goes back to the point I was making. Does the consumer get the agent they deserve? So if you select an agent based on fee, you're obviously not selecting them based on service.
No, I think they do. And again, that's why I think some of the online agents have become unstuck, and they're not doing, well, they're doing terribly. I mean, in our neck of the woods, nobody would touch certain online companies with a barge pole because nothing is free. It's not possible for a service to be free.
I mean, you get what you pay for, right? So
Well,
if
of course you do.
it's free,
Of course you do.
what can you expect?
Well, exactly. I mean, you just, you know, and these the online agents where you pay up front, and why would you then expect anyone to do the work?
Yeah, so that's really interesting, because there was a show on recently where that came up a little bit.
Yes,
didn't get a huge section, but the view on the show, and I think the vast majority of us that work in a estate agency felt as though the dummy consumer, oh no, sorry, the real consumer, was a bit naive, because they thought that if I pay a fee up front, I'm going to get all the work. And actually, from a
Well, you would in a way, wouldn't you?
Well, of course you would. If you hire a plumber,
for something, yeah, you expect them to do the job.
Yeah.
So I get that, and they are naive. I mean, that specific couple were naive. They were a young couple, and they'd never moved before, and they thought they were paying for what, and they were going to get a service that was what it said on the tin.
Which they should have, though.
Which they should have.
And so we're calling them naive.
Absolutely.
We're calling them naive for experience, for expecting the service they paid for, which is awful. That sums up where we are.
It's totally wrong. It's totally wrong. I mean, it's you shouldn't expect, just because you pay up front for someone to sell your house, you shouldn't expect a bad service. You expect what you've paid for.
Yeah, you certainly do.
And I think people, but the public, because they don't move very often, don't actually think about that. They don't consider that. A lot of the time, they just see the headline number, what you're going to sell it for, what your commission rate is. And they don't even, a lot of people I speak to don't even work out the calculation. They don't sit down and say, well, 1.5% is X and 1% is Y and 2% is Z. They don't even work that out. They just see a number.
Yeah.
And your number's higher than my number.
Yeah,
It's interesting, and we sometimes assume that the consumer is looking at it more like we are, where they're not.
For sure. Yeah, we've got all these years' experience. We've sold all these transactions, and yeah, we need to perhaps empathise more with their position, where they're coming from, how often they do this. That being said, it's easy for if everyone looks the same and does the same and behaves the same, then of course I'm just going to judge you on who is cheapest. If you're all promising the exact same, and that's I think where agency falls down more than anywhere else, is that we all just look, or I say we all, there are lots of agents who don't, but the vast majority look the same, do the same, and are not trying. Maybe someone said this once before, that in every industry in the world where you see increased competition, people improve the service, they drive up standards, because how am I going to win business? I'm going to win business by doing it better. Estate agency is one of the few where you increase competition. Instead of driving up standards, I'm just going to reduce my rate. Yeah. Reduce my commission.
Exactly.
And so, again, are we just our own worst enemy?
Yeah, I think we are. We are our worst enemy. We should pushing our fees up and offering and increasing the offering, making our offering better. And I think it would be better all round for everybody. But the issue we've got is, because the way our industry is set up, we are having to charge higher fees to cover all the abortive fees of the sales that go pear-shaped, because nobody pays a penny to us until we've done the job. I mean, there aren't many services out there that you can actually, I mean, if you went to the dentist, they're not going to let you leave the premises without paying. even though you might have to go back next week for a root canal and pay another £1,000. But we're actually expected to pay for everything, and we don't get paid until they're actually moved. Now, that for me is not quite right.
No, there's definitely there's some risk there for sure.
There's huge risk.
And if we're saying that anywhere between 1 in 3 and 1 in 4 sales fall through, it means on anywhere between 25 and 30% of all the work being done,
That's
not
right.
getting paid.
It's not getting paid.
And so, whilst we're saying we need to emphasise the consumer, we need to do a better job of educating the consumer on this is the world we operate in. I know if I was a consumer though, and you said that to me, I would say, so you want to charge a higher fee to cover the fact that some sales might not go through. That sounds like a you problem more than a me problem.
Well, it is, but the actual net effect at the end of the day is you need to get more money at the end of the day to run the business to cover all the 1 out of 4 sales that's falling through.
Yeah.
You have no choice. Again, I mean, we're looking at, we sometimes charge people for the marketing and the photos and everything up front, and then deduct it from the commission at the end of the day, which works really well.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, again, I think it is just the consumer being aware of why and how the charges work, and as estate agents, how we do make our living.
And that
Not that they're bothered, because all they want to do is sell their house.
Well, they do, but I think if you want to do a really, really great job, or if you're a vendor and you're selecting an agent, you're a consumer, you want to work with a really, really great agent. The role is to educate and make all of this. You've used words several times, transparent. If you make everything 100% transparent, then everyone understands the starting point. Also, all the risk that comes with it, all the problems, all the difficulties that we're going to deal with along the way. I think I see you saw about a plumber a minute ago, because I was thinking of an example where someone said there are a lot of property experts out there, particularly the word expert. Everyone's an expert. Why would I pay you more or pay you less? And it was someone who was in essence complaining about the rate that he was being charged by his agent. He said, I could sell this. I could sell my own home tomorrow. The point he was making is that I'm a plumber. You couldn't come and fit my toilet for me, or you couldn't fit a bathroom for me, but I could definitely sell a house. And the response was brilliant, because the response was basically 6 questions about conveyancing. If you can do it, just answer these 6 questions for me. We deal with them every day, but you've never done it, but of course you believe you can. And he had nothing. He couldn't answer any of them. I mean, he could nowadays. He could jump on ChatGPT and could find the answer pretty quickly. But the truth is, we deal with so much stuff that the consumer has no idea.
Absolutely. I mean, our job really starts when the buyer's found, because that's when we kick in.
Yeah.
And all right, the market's a bit slow at the minute, and the marketing is a bit harder than it ever has been in the past 10 years. But we are where we are. But I think really and truly, our job does kick in when the buyer is found.
Yeah. So in our business, we describe it as there are 3 distinct areas where the business works. So the first is lead generation. So as a business, we need to generate new opportunities. Yeah. And so that is where, we'll try and create valuations, and we'll meet people and we'll try and list homes. Then we list a home for sale and we get it under offer. We get sale agreed. And that window is where the vast majority of the world thinks estate agency lives.
That's what the consumer thinks they're getting. That's all they think they're getting.
But all the value, especially for the consumer, is the final third, which is sale agreed to exchange and completion.
Absolutely.
And that is, hands down, the best agents that I've ever known, worked with, been involved with. It's about how they handle the sale, progress the sale. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of agents now are outsourcing that to someone remote, who literally is remote. They've got no clue what's going on. They don't know the people. They don't know the area. They don't know the property, which I think is, again, people, if somebody wanted a service that was totally impersonal, they would go with an online agent, or they could put it themselves on Rightmove. They could just sell it themselves. Yep. They could have a board made and stick it outside. They could try. If they don't want a service, but they do want a service. They want somebody to help them and hold their hand throughout the process. That's what they're paying for. They're paying for experience, and they're paying for trust, and they're paying for us to just help them through the process. Yeah,
they want the result.
They want the result.
And they want you to hold their hand all the way through.
Absolutely.
It's a little bit like a hairdresser. I don't want to tell you how to do it. This is the end product, and I want to trust that you're going to get me to the end product. Yeah. The difference is when you go into a hairdresser's, you don't negotiate the price.
No.
And if estate agents stopped negotiating on price, the world would be a very different land.
It would be a different...
Because everyone would be slightly better off commercially, which would allow for a little bit more time per transaction, a little bit more service. But it's easy for us to pontificate.
We've just got to convince the rest of the agents out there to do the same. Because
certainly do.
it's not easy when you're in a town and some of the other agents are dropping their fees so low that, you know, sometimes when the market is very buoyant and moving, why would you pay an agent twice as much for a house that's going to go on the market and sell tomorrow? Why would you pay twice as much to a different agent if you knew you were going to get a relatively good experience? That's where the issue lies.
And yeah, you're right. We've got sort of local agents that have been around forever, and they've got huge credibility, and they've got lots of case studies and lots of success, and they deliver quite average service, but they charge a low fee, and because of all that history, they're trusted to get the job done. And a chunk of the time they will get it done. But a big chunk of the time they won't, or the feedback will be really, really negative because they're just, in essence, they're just so busy because they've been around forever and they've got so much volume. And this for me is, you know, a new entrance into a market. A new agent comes in, maybe they've got to do a deal on fees to try and break into a market. But the guys that have been around forever, they've got no excuse.
They've got no
excuse. I think they're just creating too much of a negative impact on the entire market. And if this sounds awful, most consumers can be watching this now thinking these two are having a laugh. All they want to do is charge more. But I assure you...
No, you need to charge enough to make the business run properly. That's all you need to do, is you need to make enough money to offer the good service, to be able to use the appropriate software, to do the right marketing.
And to do the right training.
And to do the right training and get the right team in. You know, you can't... Staff aren't cheap. You have to employ decent staff and reward them
you do,
to a level where they're going to stick with you, and to get the service, because otherwise you pay peanuts, you get monkeys.
Well, I remember years ago speaking, our lettings director was, this is an old business, he was out of the business on holiday, I think, and I came in and sort of ran the lettings team which I hadn't been doing for years, but I thought, you know, I'll dip my toe back in and play a part. And I ended up getting a training call out of it. New prospective landlord, and I had never met him, but he was not happy with our terms, and there was a bit of back and forth. And so I said, well, I'll take over the call because the person that was dealing it's not here. And he couldn't get his head around why we were so much more expensive than our competitors. And I took great pleasure in telling him, talking about continuity, training, compensation for the team, and how the service this group will offer will be nothing like you've ever experienced. And I say it became a training call that anyone could listen to because it worked beautifully. He happy to pay the fee once he understood what he was paying for. He was going to get amazing value. Yeah. And I think that we were quite lucky, and maybe you're lucky or maybe just highly skilled, Jackie. We set our stall out quite early that we're going to charge at this point, but we're going to do a great job. And so we never fell into that rut. Yeah. I think so many agents are in the rut now where it's difficult to justify a higher fee because they aren't doing all the extra stuff.
I know, for the low fee. And I mean, we've all tried in the past. You send out, you know, emails, leaflets offering low percentage. Nothing ever comes of it because people aren't really interested. They're not interested in the low percentage. They're interested in the better service. Yeah. You know, you make your choices. You go food shopping, you'll go to Waitrose, or you'll go to Lidl, or you'll go to Tesco's. People make their choices. Yeah. They know they're going to pay more in one than the other.
Yeah, it's value, isn't it? It's value perception.
Value for money, value perception, which is the most important thing. And I think again, transparency. We just need to be clearer as an industry. We just need to tell the world what we do, why we're good at it, and why we're worth it.
And on that note, we are going to wrap that up because that is such a nice way to end it. Tell the world what we do, how we do, why we're good at it, with proof. With proof.
Absolutely.
So we set the world to rights. It took episode 3 for it to happen, but we've absolutely changed the world of estate agency forever. Everyone's going to follow us into battle now. Great service, appropriate fees. Jackie, thank you so much for doing 3 episodes.
Thank you for having me.
You've been amazing. Guys, I always forget to say this, but engagement, likes, follows, shares, all that stuff is great. So please get on with that, and we'll see you next time.